Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, 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 Kol Haloyam, Adonai Yahweh, Hashem Shah, Malak Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Makakadash, double honor to the apostles and the elders, great millstone, peace and salutations to the hopeful elect, Habayah Shah, Malak Dawatah, the house of King David, and to the confusion of faces that look like these heathen nations, but identity goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the royal holy chosen seed line. Shalom. And the title of this video is going to be Hyperinflation and Deflation are a part of prophecy. So I'm going to start off with this article that I was looking for. It says hyperinflation in Lebanon leads to mass protests. So it says hyperinflation is a heavy word, a simple breath that conveys with it a staggering amount of historical significance and trauma, blamed for Hitler's rise and the fall of the Weimar Republic, the downfall of the first American currency issued by the Continental Congress, and the cause of numerous downfalls of government. Hyperinflation was also something Bitcoin and its sound money principles were positioned against from the beginning, with its 21 million Bitcoin limit, an idea that has spread in spirit, if not in practice, to many other cryptocurrencies. As the COVID-19 world positions itself to a strange potential stagflation situation due to the collapse of categories of demand due to lockdown restrictions, as well as supply shocks caused by disease, the fiat currencies of some governments are collapsing in value, leaving their people stranded, hungry, and desperate. This in turn leads to inflation, as belief in a government's ability to pay its own debts and maintain a stable economy flounder, its fiat currency weakens, and the goods you can buy with that fiat currency decreases. Once that inflation hits its critical phase and continues accelerating, it is dubbed hyperinflation. And just to say, this is not the definition. I don't think it's in this article, but I'm letting you know from right now, hyperinflation is where goods dramatically increase, and as the dollar, every time they print the money, with the dollar, that decreases the value of the dollar. So as the value is decreasing over time, you have goods and prices that increase dramatically. And I'm talking about, this was a time period during like World War II, when Germany had their hyperinflation and shit like that. I think it was during the time of World War II with Germany, when they had the hyperinflation. They had barrels of money, they had to have stacks of money and shit like that, because they had to pay it off. um you know and you will see children playing with with stacks of money, like it was like, like they having it like as like, toy blocks and stuff like that, like having like mad stacks of money. So you see in like, sometimes like you might see in some music videos where you see some jakes, and like, as like, song artists and shit like that, flashing all that money. Man, all that money is soon gonna be the type of money that you need to, you know, to buy just a piece of bread. You're gonna see all that money that you need to carry to the store just to buy a few items. That's how bad the hyperinflation is gonna finna be, you know. And yeah, so basically, hyperinflation is basically dramatic increase in prices of goods and services. That's basically what it is. It's dramatically increases to like from you'll see from 50 to, to 100. You'll see from single digits to basically triple digit to quadruple digit, in dollars and shit like that. So let me continue on with the article. In Lebanon, the government has defaulted on its debt and warned that its large amount of public foreign debt has lowered foreign exchange reserves to critical. Public spending cuts were promised by Prime Minister Hassan Diab, a technocrat partially supported by Hezbollah, along with a sobering projection that 40% of Lebanon's population might sink below the poverty level. This, coupled with the troubled caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and ensuing lockdown has created a critical amount of hyperinflation. The Lebanese pound has sunk to new lows, almost having halving Salakia in value in a matter of weeks. Consumer goods prices have shot up 50%. Savers have been locked out of their deposits since mid-October when unrest first emerged. Protests have been sparked in major cities across Lebanon as a result, with some protesters speaking of either dying from disease or dying from hunger. The Lebanese military has fired on protesters with live ammunition and killed one 26-year-old Fawad al-Saman, sparking more unrest at his funeral. Damn. See, I didn't know that. Amid this darkness and perhaps the most humorous take on the situation, Lebanese protesters conducted a funeral for the Lebanese pound. All right. Let me see. I pretty much just read through a lot in this article. Y'all could look for it for yourselves. Um, so that's basically what it's getting into with the hyperinflation. And this article over here, that I think let me see. This might be the one that wanted me to sign up. Oh, yeah, Salaki. It was during World War One. Yeah, with the hyperinflation. Yeah, of Germany. Yeah, it is World War One. Sometimes I forget. So forgive me on that. Yeah, it was actually World War One. But they tell me to sign up for that. I don't got time for all that. So pretty much in what you call it in you already have a hyperinflation in what you call it, and what's that country's name? Uh, in Venezuela, you already have a hyperinflation that happened over there. Food prices skyrocketing and shit like that. And I'll give a few scriptures, after this article that I'm about to pull up. I saw it around here somewhere. Let me see. Because if you know, like, if y'all don't know, deflation is where prices and in goods, like, they go, they get put on the low, like they start to decrease dramatically. And people might think that it might be good, but it's actually a bad idea that that this will happen. These companies need to make a profit out of, like, the products that they're selling. So if hyperinflation hits first, you got to keep in mind deflation will hit after, for a certain amount of time, because deflation is basically like where um prices and goods, of goods and services, like, they dramatically decrease. So that would mean that companies are trying to get a profit out of it, and then workers aren't going to get paid as much as they did before. So they might get paid, like, below minimum wage or some shit like that, because deflation is, like, making the prices of the goods so low that, and the CEO pretty much, the owner of the company, has to pretty much profit out of what he's selling, because it's his company, he's buying the goods and stuff like that. So it's like he got to make a profit on the end. He got to lay off a certain amount of workers. That that's what deflation causes. So he's having less workers in the company, more people laid off, which leads to less workers, and people not getting paid as much in the job. And you know people, that customers aren't going to be satisfied, because most of the time they're going to see somebody that bought something already before they bought it, and that's going to get, that's kind of leading into you know unsatisfied customers. So yeah, it says, forget inflation, we should be concerned about deflation. It says, this article, there are times when it seems we're worrying about things that aren't worth worrying about. A good example these days is inflation. Amazingly, the complaint is that it's not rising fast enough. In March, the Consumer Price Index or CPI had increased 1.9% over the past year. The gain of another inflation indicator, the deflator of the personal consumption expenditures or PCE, was 1.5%. That's not what's not to like. Despite criticism for President Trump, all this qualifies as good news. Prices have hardly risen. Indeed, technical difficulties in measuring inflation, for example, how to account for new products such as smartphones, suggests actual inflation could be close to zero. Some prices go up. New vehicles 0.7% over the past year. Other prices go down. Television 19%. Um, the PCE is the Federal Reserve's preferred inflation indicator for workers. This means that if their wages and fringe benefits rose by more than 1.5% over the year, they would have received a modest boost to their real inflation adjusted incomes. And yet, some respected economists worry that inflation is too low. Let me see. I'm trying to look for. All right. So I'll say this brings us to the most serious of inflation's alleged shortcomings. Paradoxically, it's deflation or falling prices. Of course, some prices are falling even when the overall price level is rising. To take an obvious example, computers and other tech products have experienced massive price cuts. No one is against these. By contrast, deflation signifies declines in most prices, and this prospect can do enormous economic damage. The most terrifying example is the Great Depression of the 1930s, when the wholesale price index fell a staggering 33% from 1929 to 1933. The result was to prolong the depression. Deflation causes people to delay major purchases. They think the prices will go even lower. Deflation also makes it harder for debtors to repay their loans. The economy gets caught in a vicious circle of deflation. Weak consumer spending and more loan defaults. In the 1930s, annual unemployment peaked at around 25%. And oh yeah, that's another thing because like I forgot to mention that. That's a good point because when it's coming to like deflation, that really does make it hard to pay off your loans because it's like you're not getting that much money as you was when you was, selling the products because um if you got to look at it because deflation is when your prices are going lower. So you're basically like, let's say you bought something like, let's say you selling book bags, right? So you bought book bags for like you buy it and then you like sell it obviously for a higher price. That's how you make your your bread. So now you buy a book bag for $15, right? You buy your book bags for $15 each. So now you sell it for like, let's say um $40 because you add a style to it, you brand it or some, however however you will call it. But you sell it now, and now all of a sudden a deflation hits the economy. So now you gotta sell your products for like, let's say lower than what you used to sell it. So like you might have to sell it for like $20, or you might even have to sell it lower than what you bought it for to a certain extent, like and you're barely making anything out of it. So that's basically what deflation is getting at. And you're not going to make as much profit as you did when the economy wasn't hit with no deflation. And mind you, and when you have people working for you too, you ain't going to pay them as much because like you barely made any money for your damn self. And plus you wouldn't need, like, your company wouldn't be open for that long because obviously you need to pay people by the hour, and the minimum wage now is like $15 an hour, so mind you that. So yeah, you definitely don't need as much people working for you. So that might put more work on an employee. That that's gonna, yeah, that's gonna definitely put more work on an employee that is working for the company, and you getting more people laid off. People might think that, oh, because they're buying, like, let's say, because I went to a store one time, right, and there was like these, I saw Yeezys and Jordans on, no, Salakia. I didn't see, I saw like some Jordans on sale and stuff like that, right? Not, I didn't see no Yeezy, but I saw like Jordans on sale. And and you're gonna have like Jake's, like, going to Doctor, and the store was in Dr. J's, right? It was like by in Jamaica, Queens, when I was walking over there. Um when I came from like one of my jobs, and because I worked a temporary shift in a warehouse, so I came from from there, and I saw like that you had this Dr. J's like company that said everything must go, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then they had stuff that's like they had signs and shit that's saying that everything must go, so they're selling like a lot of things lower than ever. And Jake's be the first ones to go to the stores to buy a lot of sneakers, to buy the tech sweatsuits and Jordans and Nike, all that type of apparel and shit like that. Jake be the first one to buy that type of shit in there. And sometimes, when it's coming to people, when it's coming to the stupidity of our people be the first ones to go on the line to buy the what you call it, to be the first ones to buy the a phone or whatever, to be the first ones to buy some type of brand of something. Our people, you have stupid of our people like staying out there, like that's how dumb people are. So, but yeah, it's crazy. And it says high inflation is cast as the antidote to deflation. It's an extra cushion of protection. This sounds sensible, but it overlooks the reality of that the transition to higher inflation will create a new set of problems involving interest rates, exchange rates, consumer business uncertainty, and the stock market, name to name just a few. Moreover, it presumes that deflation will quickly attain depression-like proportions when a more likely outcome would be modest deflation. Probably many Americans wouldn't notice slight price declines. Others might seize on them as an opportunity to bargain hunting. Indeed, the combination of rigid wages and falling prices would enhance consumer purchasing power and could stimulate an economic recovery. We have a case study in probabilities. Japan, it's been grappling with deflation for years, but the price declines have been puny. From 2001 to 2010, the average annual decline was 0.3%. That's one third of 1%, says the International Monetary Fund. Millions of Americans are unaware of disastrous experience with double digit inflation. They have either forgotten or weren't yet born. The Fed says it won't abandon its current inflation target of 2%. That's a promise the Fed needs to keep. Mm-mm-mm. And well, that's something you gotta understand with Americans. They wouldn't really be, you know, what you call it. They will be oblivious to stuff like this. Your average American, and that's most likely, talking, and that mostly refers to our people too. Like, because the average Jake they're not gonna understand these type of things. And at least in college, like I study economics and shit like that. I'm currently did a course and I passed it and shit like that. With an 85. So yeah, pretty much I understand like the economy itself, and it's through the spirit how I was doing the course and stuff like that, because it teaches about like deflation and hyperinflation and how it happened over history, and it teaches like the economy studies, like the economy as a whole, things that's relevant to this year's economy and the past years. That's basically what macroeconomics teaches. Yeah, studying countries' GDPs and stuff like that. Terminal deflation is coming. Central banks' intervention in the pandemic economy are unprecedentedly vast, and not nearly enough. Public health efforts to contain the coronavirus pandemic have brought about the most abrupt economic collapse in recorded history, and efforts to contain that collapse have entailed unprecedented experiments in monetary police. The U.S. Federal Reserve has established 9 new lending facilities in its efforts to supply the entire world with liquidity. Buying all manner of private and public debt has expanded Fed's balance sheet from 4.1 trillion to late February to over 6.5 trillion by mid-April. Analysts have predicted its balance sheet is on course to reach 9 trillion by the end of the year. Suffice it is to say that its present pace, the Fed is ejecting about 1 million to the financial system every second, with a declared upper bound of infinity. Sailing in uncharted water invites speculation about what sorts of danger might sink the ship. One common failure scenario for the new Fed's new monetary policies is the fear that 1 million per second for the indefinite future will cause an inflationary disaster. That fear, intuitive, widely held, and influential, it is also completely misplaced. Economic history suggests that deflation, not inflation, is by far the more likely and in some ways the more dangerous destination of the Fed's current trajectory without yet more unprecedented action. So yeah, pretty much this is a long article. I'm not gonna let me see. Let me point out this part, that inflation has been at the center of education and professional practice of central bankers since 1970s doesn't lessen the dangers posed by deflation. Deflation depresses demand by encouraging consumers to delay their spending, especially on infrequent big ticket purchases like cars and appliances. In a deflationary environment, consumers expect prices to fall, so they wait on their purchases. That in turn creates a dangerous feedback loop. When consumers don't buy, producers are likely to lower their prices. Yeah, because there might be the inflation might happen first, you could say, because consumers might not want to buy, because like they're like, damn, shit's mad high, so that it's gonna stop buying for a little while, and then the deflation will hit, and then people will be like, oh, prices drop, so it might be good. Next thing you know, you're gonna have a few other unlucky customers, a couple unlucky customers come in there that be like, damn, somebody took this and that, somebody got this and that, I can't buy this and that, and now that causes like people unsatisfied customers, you know. So that's pretty much where I'm getting at with this. Um, let's see, where was I? Yeah, in a deflationary environment, consumers expect prices to fall, so they wait on their purchases. That in turn creates a dangerous feedback loop. When consumers don't buy, producers are likely to lower their prices, which confirms consumer expectations, so they wait longer, which drives down prices further, and so on. And all while nobody buys anything, sales dry up, so profits dry up, and businesses go under. Deflation also makes the burden of debt heavier, as the same fixed dollar amount of a loan, the nominal amount stays the same, but wages and prices fall, so the nominal value gets relatively bigger in real terms. In 2019, U.S. household debt hit a 14-year high. Deflation would increase the relative cost of every mortgage, every student loan, every credit card debt, every car loan, and every medical debt. Deflation also encourages businesses not to invest, both because borrowing to do so incurs these same costs and because the expected future revenue from investments fall over time, and thus they will never be worth the high cost. All of these problems accentuate each other. Businesses do not sell enough to make profits, so they fire people and do not hire new ones. People lose their jobs, so they don't have money to spend or fear losing their jobs, so they save for an uncertain future instead of spending now. And what I'm saying is out of text, hence um it will cause unemployment rates to increase dramatically and skyrocket, and that's what it is doing right now. Businesses and households spend more servicing old debts than on new consumption. Prices fall as people don't buy things, and people don't buy things as prices fall. The result is a feedback loop of economic paralysis. All right, so I made my point in that article. Y'all could look that up if y'all want to read more. Through the spirit, I found the point. Now I'm gonna show you a few scriptures, just to okay, Adaron Ratazar, y'all be edified by this. So in Revelation 6 and okay, I'll just say verse 6, because I know I did a lesson on the what you call it, on the pale, I mean, no, Salaki, on the black horse. Like, according to this topic, this is about the black horse going to the third seal. So I did a lesson on that, and I'm gonna start at verse 6, because this goes into like the hyperinflation. It says, "And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine." So I pretty much did a lesson on the breakdown of the of the black horse, and I went to like saying like how the penny was talking about like the denarius coin at the time. It's talking about like that was a time during in the New Testament. That was the money that that it cost to basically to pay for a day's wages. During the times of like um of Caesar, like during the time like that's how much it costs like to pay for like an average day's of wages. That was like basically the minimum wage back then. Like how the minimum wage is $15 an hour or some shit like that. That was pretty much the minimum wage back then. You know, so yeah. And where I'm getting at with this is that there's gonna be a time where your average day of wages is going to basically it's not gonna be able to pay off for a certain amount of things that you gotta buy. So like you might buy a few loaves of bread just for like yeah, it might take like a few you know what you call it yeah, few hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy like bread, and to buy like a your daily necessities and stuff like that. And people don't get people don't have an idea of like of what's coming to this country. And that's going into the famine. And that's what the black horse is pretty much like prophesying. And I did a video about the black horse, so y'all could look back into that in my on my channel. And going into second Esdras, I think it was the 16 verse 21. Yeah. So it says, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case, and even shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. So yeah, and I think what you call it, yeah, the gas there were gasoline prices have lowered too, because of the what you call it, because of the deflation or whatever that hit the gas, and like gas prices was lowering. People might think that, oh, because they see certain things that lower, and even later on in the future, things may prices may lower too to a certain extent. Like you said, like technology was lowering in that some of the articles that I brought out. Yeah, and basically where I'm getting at with this is that like people are gonna look at it like, this be most of our people too, like, oh, everything is good, because they bought the TV for the low. They bought like a pair of Jordans, they're bought their nice apparels for the low and shit like that. you know People might think that that this is that they're at ease because of these things, but very soon the Most High is just like, it's gonna cause like something else to happen. And like there's gonna be a famine that's gonna hit because of these, the hyperinflation and deflation. you know and our people are so stupid, they're gonna buy so much of these things that they wear, for style, just to impress. But it's like you're not even saving up money to buy food and shit like that you actually need for your survival. But ultimately, if you have Yahweh Bashim Yashai with you, you will overcome those situations. He will help you overcome it. But a lot of people, they don't have the Lord in them, because everything they do, they don't put Yahweh Bashim Yashai in their life first. Everything else they put in their life first. They want to put money over the Most High. They put woman over the Most High. They put these idols and celebrities in front of the Most High. And then these be the same people that say they love God. They claim they love the Most High with their lips, and this is our people. Talking about it for the most part, because this Bible ain't about the heathens. It's about the our people. But yeah, that's what's that's what's gonna happen to this country. You gotta have a hyperinflation and a deflation. So yeah, this ain't no joke. This is all part of prophecy, and it's going to happen, whether you like it or not. It's whatever's written in this book, whether it be Old Testament, New Testament, Apocrypha. It's finna happen. Some things happened in the past, and it's gonna happen again. it's gonna, these prophecies make their comebacks. So yeah, that's the lesson I want to point out. Hope I made that lesson edifying, to give all glory, praises, honor to Adonai Yahweh, Ba'ashem Shah Malaki Habashai, Ba'ashem Kakadash, double honor to our apostles and the elders of the great millstone, peace salutations to the hopeful elect, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yashai, Shalak Rayam Adawam Yam Wa Abad Ball Shalom.